Hello everyone, I'm Alyssa Lansdale and welcome to Square Off.
Alyssa, do you believe in UFOs?
Well, the jury's still out on that one, Mark, but I do believe we're not alone.
Well, for those who think Earth has been visited by extraterrestrials, today is a special day.
Yes, it's the 66th anniversary of the infamous Roswell UFO sightings, and we'll get the real story later on Square Off. When we come back, we ask the question, is the truth out there?
Well, if it is, don't bother looking for it in Roswell, New Mexico. We'll get the real story on the most famous UFO sighting in recent memory next on Square Off. For those who believe in UFOs and extraterrestrials, today is a red letter day. You see, 66 years ago, the modern day era in the search for ETs began in earnest.
It actually began near earnest, Mark, in a sleepy little New Mexico town called Roswell. The infamous Roswell sighting dates back to 1947 when witnesses reported seeing a UFO crash on a ranch near Roswell, New Mexico. Although the U.S. Armed Forces maintain to this day that what was recovered near Roswell was debris from the crash of a military surveillance balloon, millions of people believe the American military actually got their hands on a spacecraft containing extraterrestrial life. The incident has made Roswell synonymous with UFOs.
But what really happened 66 years ago in Roswell? Let's ask Rob McConnell. He's the host of the syndicated X Zone radio show. Rob, can you give us the straight goods here? Did an alien crash land in Roswell 66 years ago or not?
No, it didn't. It really
Thank you
didn't.
for that.
No problem. What did happen is a matter of controversy that still reaches on to this very day, Mark. You've got those in the UFO field who believe, as was said, that the government is covering up the fact that a UFO crashed with alien bodies on board. But what is really happening is the UFO community itself has neglected to tell the whole truth of what really happened at Roswell. Therefore, it's the UFO community that is perpetrating the cover-up and not the government.
And how did they do this?
What they've done is they forgot to tell a number of very important facts within the reporting of the incident in Roswell, New Mexico. For example, nowhere is it mentioned that the base intelligence officer, Jesse Marcel, had an assistant, which he did. What the story also forgets or neglects to say is that what happened after Marcel picks up approximately 5 pounds of this unidentified material, instead of maintaining the chain of command and driving directly back to the base, what does he do? He goes home, wakes up his wife, wakes up his children, and lets them handle this alleged evidence. Now, Marcel himself really had no knowledge of Project Mogul because at the time it was not within his security ranking. Now, let's go back to that time, 66 years ago. We're on the brink of a Cold War. We didn't have this satellite technology, and we needed to know what the Russians were up to. So how do we get something high enough over the lip of the world? Well, we use balloons. It's no secret that many Mogul balloons crashed in the New Mexico desert. This is a known fact. But what really happened here? I'm sorry, guys, Mogul, no UFO.
Okay, but what about the interview Jesse Marcel then does in 1978? How do you account for that, where he says that this was actually an alien encounter, as it were?
66 years later,
yes.
Here we are. There is no physical evidence whatsoever of any UFO anywhere in the world or extraterrestrial body. Now, the same can be said for Bigfoot, the same can be said for the Loch Ness Monster, and the list goes on and on and on. I, for one, would love to see evidence. I want to be a believer, but I don't want to have to rely on so many stories. It's Jesse Marcel. What was he supposed to do? Backtrack? Yeah. He had only one way to go, and that was to go forward. And once again, here you've got members of the military who swear an oath, who break it. Makes no sense to me.
Rob, in 1947, were investigative techniques that much different than they are today? Were reporters, I'm not just talking police or authoritative investigators, but reporters, for example, were they, did they have the facilities, the tools at their disposal to report the way reporters report today?
Definitely not. Definitely not. For example, today everyone has a camera in their cell phone. Can you just imagine Mark Brazel, the day before he calls up the Army Air Force Base after talking to his neighbors, the Proctors, and taking pictures of the debris? Can you just imagine that? This would have solved the case once and for all. Another very important thing to remember, Kevin Randall, who wrote a fantastic book with Don Schmidt, has now said, his book was pro-Roswell crash, UFO, cover up the whole bit. He's now saying that based on new evidence that has been released under the Freedom of Information Act, he's changing his mind that what really happened in Roswell was a crash of a mogul balloon.
Interesting. Rob, is there anything in all the UFO sightings you've investigated that does remain a real question mark in your mind?
There's always a question. There's always a question. When we look at the statistics, UFO reports in the last 10 years are down. The Canadian government has now stopped any UFO investigation, referring UFO cases to the University of Manitoba. We're looking at a global decline. Instead of getting the pictures, instead of getting the evidence that's available because of modern technology, it's turned around. 99.5% of UFO stories, investigations, are being proved to be terrestrial. But still, it's that 0.5% that have a lot of people convinced that ET is still there.
That's Rob McConnell. He's the host of the syndicated X Zone radio show and an expert, as you've seen, on aliens and the like. Thanks so much, Rob.
My great pleasure.
When we come back, the square off.